Hi everyone, I'm Chelsea Brown. I will be your host today. I'm currently studying my BCom Honours degree at the University of Johannesburg, as well as working as an intern at DDP, one of the biggest valuation firms in South Africa. I'm so glad for having you all here today. Today we are touching, sorry about this. Today we will be touching on building stronger networks. We know how important it is to have a good, strong foundation in the valuations industry. Working with other people is very, very important in furthering your career. We do have a few panelists with us today that will be speaking to this as well. Also, I would love to mention that we have a few prizes up for grabs. We have 5 Take-A-Lot vouchers that we will be giving away. So, for the first 2 vouchers, this will be given for whoever answers our poll questions the fastest. So please guys, please stay attentive, be on your laptops, and whoever's quickest to the mouse pad will definitely be receiving a Take-A-Lot voucher from us today. And then we still have 3 more vouchers to give away. The other 2 vouchers will be given to those who ask the most interesting and most thought-provoking questions. So yes, participation is key, but don't participate just, please ask good questions, guys. And then the last will be given to someone who gives us the most thought-provoking answer as well. So we'll definitely be having a look out on the chat. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to use our Q&A section. Like I said, we'll definitely be having a look at that. And all prizes will be announced at the end of this webinar. I would love to introduce our panelists today. So our first panelist is Rita Bile. Rita Bile, may you please introduce yourself?
Hi. You want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm Rita Bile Makena, and I'm a newly qualified PAV, currently working at Investec as a property risk analyst. That's me.
Thank you, Rita Bile. We're so glad for having you here today, honestly. And our next panelist is Owen. Owen, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Owen Reyners. I'm a 3rd-year candidate valuer studying at CPUT. Currently working for Pierre Reyners Valuers.
No, that's honestly incredible. Thank you so much for joining us today. And then lastly, we have Molate. Molate, may you please introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Molate Ropela. My journey is a little bit more interesting than the rest of the other guys. They seem like they knew they had their ducks in a row when they went for this. So just to give you a little brief, I have a qualification in town regional planning, and it took me 5 years to graduate from that because I had a 2-year delay in terms of getting work, which comes to the segment of today, to building strong networks. I was not aware at the time how important networking is, and it took me so much longer to get an opportunity to work. But because of my passion for property and working for the city of Johannesburg being my first work employment opportunity and working in admin, I got a great chance to meet a large degree of property role players, from architects to land surveyors to property valuers, town planners, and I would ask questions about these different fields. And one that resonated with me a lot was property valuation. So when I did my first year working for the city of Joburg, I went and studied a diploma with Cape Peninsula University of Technology, like Owen over here. We missed each other by just a few years. We could have been in the same class. And when I got that opportunity, I vowed to myself that I'm going to interact with my classmates, because interacting with your classmates, you never know if your classmate could be the next big HO, whatever these big qualifications are. And they could essentially see the potential that you have, and you could be seconded or you could be headhunted. So for me, my opportunity came from one of the guys that I met from City of Joburg. And he was a property valuer while I was still an admin as a property information officer, dealing with zoning certificates, land use applications, that sort of thing. And this guy just really saw so much potential in me. I didn't necessarily bother him. You know, the worst thing you can ever do is to bother someone and say, I want a job. It's not like people are flying around with a cape on and they're just like, I'm a superhero and I give out jobs, you know? But it's very important to show your enthusiasm, just how much passion you have for the industry, and to kind of give out yourself more, you know, because there's so much more that you can give of value, and that other people can notice. So my opportunity came from somebody that seconded me, and that I'd been just, you know, helping him out and with regards to work stuff. And he was just like, you know what, I think you've got something, you know. And that's where my first opportunity came, where I was exposed now, just earlier, just 4 or 5 months ago. So you can just see that sometimes your setback can be a platform for a comeback, you know. And during the 4 or 5 months that I've been a candidate valuer right now, I've been very fortunate to come from a commercial background, commercial and industrial, which is very difficult coming into if you know nothing about property valuations. But nonetheless, there was so much to learn. And in that environment as well, I met one other candidate that was also part of the SAIV Institute Mentorship Program, whom I also had the privilege to work with. And he also mentored me as well, because he was very sharp guy. And my opportunity now, I've moved from commercial now, and I'm doing a lot of residential. I've just recently completed a portfolio of about 50 residential properties, you know, lots of sleepless nights, which also just tells you, you know, the life of a valuer. You'll be working very long nights. It's very interesting. And the workload determines how much you can earn. So there's just so much great opportunity, and you need to really put yourself out there.
No,
When you're
that's
on
so,
this kind of
so true,
platform.
Malate.
Yeah.
That's so,
I'm,
so
I'm,
true.
I'm
I
very
think
much
I'd like
forever
to
there.
add that whilst you're saying that, you know, that's exactly why we needed to have this webinar today, right? Because you
Yes.
just prove exactly why we need to network as candidate valuers. And I mean, it is quite intimidating for us to go and speak to someone who's much older than you. And that's why you'd rather speak to someone who's currently in our positions, who's younger, and that can actually give you the advice to starting your career at a really early age. And then I would also finally like to make one final introduction to a very special lady. So I do have a co-host with me today. Her name is Lindsay Lay. Lindsay Lay, may you please introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lindsay Lay, and I am a candidate valuer, a registered candidate valuer, as well as a town planner by profession. I am very excited to be here, and I have to say that the panel is equally as exciting. I certainly will be, you know, getting into contact with you. Your profiles are quite amazing. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I obtained my undergrad at the University of Pretoria, where I did a town and regional planning degree. So Mulade, we definitely have something in common there. And I then later went to obtain a master's degree in property development, where I specialized in property valuation. And I have to say that it's a decision that I can never ever regret. I am such in a good space. So currently, as we are now in 2020, I am also very proud to be you know, to be part of to serve rather at the SAIV Northern Branch Executive. Just to help also young people, you know, like myself, who are interested in the field, you know, I'm quite excited about that. So yes, thank you. That will be all for now.
Thanks so much, Lee. Thanks to all our panelists for joining us today. So I'd like to kick off our first question to Rita Bile. You know, these days, I think it's becoming extremely rare that as students that you graduate and the first job that you get is already within your field. I mean, Molate managed to prove that to us already, you know? And this is why building a strong network is extremely, extremely important. I know that I'm fortunate enough to have my first job be as a candidate valuer at DDP. Like, I'm honestly so grateful for that. But Rita Bile, we know that your first job after graduating was actually at Redefine as a retail leasing agent. How did you eventually manage to secure the job that you have now, and how did building a strong network help you?
Well, I think a lot of the time, sometimes, let me not say a lot of the time, sometimes candidate valuers or new entrants into the market can close themselves up to opportunities. So I took the opportunity at Redefine Properties as a stepping stone. And then once I was in there, I got to meet a lot of people that opened me up to a world I hadn't anticipated, and what opened me up to like a lot of different types of valuation type career, well, not careers, but companies I could work for. And through that, I was able then to refine my search, and that's how I popped up to the Investec opportunity. So it was one of those things where I wasn't really sure what property risk was, but in having conversations with people who worked at Investec, people who were already in the valuation space within the banking sector, they were able to explain what this role was. And then that's how I managed to apply for that job, jump into that experience and take it with both hands.
That's honestly incredible.
Yeah.
So now it's actually quite incredible that you say that. And, you know, just to ask a question also to Mulate, like I had initially mentioned earlier that, you know, we do have quite a bit in common, you know, with me also having studied town planning and also having worked at the municipality. Well, I do also work at the municipality currently as a town planner, and I know that you also have quite extensive background, you know, working at a municipality. So for those who, I mean, we all do understand that municipalities are the biggest employers of valuers in the country. And for those who have a desire of joining a municipality, what, you know, how did you secure your job? I mean, what would your advice be for the people who want to join the municipality? Basically share with us how you secured that job and just where did you hear about it?
Honestly, for me, it was a blessing in disguise because I first joined as an intern. As I said, I struggled for about 2 years to get practical work, which held me back from graduating. So that opportunity after my internship, because of my performance and to a large degree because of my personality, being able to interact with people and being to just be able to engage with people in conversation. I think that was one of the things that stood out, that made me stand out, because I was going to work with a lot of people. It's public service. So you need to be able to understand people and to provide great service. And considering that proverbially, the municipalities aren't seen in a good light in terms of giving service, but there are certain departments where you've got individuals that are able to put themselves out there and give the great service and represent the municipality for what it should be. So for me, it's the internship, and from internship, then I went from permanent. And your personal development skills are so critical in these kind of spaces. And hence the transition also was seamless for me.
Absolutely.
No, that's true. It sounds like you focused a lot on upskilling yourself over the years, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it also comes from having mentors as well. You know, sometimes when you have a mentor, you don't have to want something from someone. And it's about just availing yourself, you know, and sometimes you don't transact on it immediately. Sometimes it can come in a few months. Sometimes it can come in a few years. Just like right now, there are people that are watching us right now, and they're seeing lots of potential, and they expect the next group of candidates to be at the same caliber. So even ourselves now, we're setting a very great example as to how you can develop yourself and make yourself much more attractable for employment as well.
No, that's very, very true, Malate. So, Owen, we know that your dad has been like doing valuations before most of us here were even born, you know? But I mean, my question is, when did you actually realize that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, the funniest thing is that I've heard all of your ways into the industry. Mine is a little bit different. I wasn't really interested in valuations to start off with or growing up. But basically what I wanted to do was I wanted to become a chemical engineer. And I started doing that when I finished high school in 2014. I studied it for 2 years, and along the way, I kind of realized it's not quite what I wanted to do. So just starting with my third year, I decided, you know what, I'm going to quit my losses, and I didn't know what to do because my whole life was going around just becoming a chemical engineer. So out of interest or just keeping myself busy, my dad said, you know what, come and work for me for a bit, doing mundane, the most basic jobs, just for about a bit of pocket money. And I think the interest for the profession just kind of developed afterwards. I would always remember when we had some other social gathering or a braai or something, I could hear my dad and his colleagues speak about all of these things, and I was always curious to know exactly what they said. And more and more, I started to develop this curiosity just to find out what everything meant and what I wanted to do further on. And I think it kind of developed afterwards. That's basically my way into all of this.
No, and I mean, like, I think it speaks to a lot of people's experience. You know, we all find this, like, we all find valuations in our own ways. Like, I know personally, I mean, I was running away from accounting. I just didn't want to study that anymore. And then I discovered that I could actually do BCom finance. And then with that, I mean, at UJ, you can also then take property valuations as an elective, right? And in your third year, you don't have to do accounting. But whilst doing that, I realized that I actually do have a passion for this. And this is exactly where I want it to be. But yeah, so before we move on to the next question, we actually have a pop-up for you guys. Also, guys, this pop-up, we will be giving a giveaway to the first person who answered. Can we please have that go up? Okay, there we go. You guys have about 30 seconds to answer. So the pop-up says, are you a valuer in corporate, private practice, or municipality? Okay, please go ahead and answer that. Thank you.
Well, Chelsea, while you wait for the results for your poll, I'll say that that's literally what you were saying. That's how I got into the valuation space as well. But I was running away from economics in second year, and I found the subject property valuation management, and I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. And it kind of stuck. So, you know, you jump into things in different ways.
No, that's so true. I'm glad that you can relate to that. I think there's probably a few UJ students that definitely can relate to this, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so we actually got the results in, and 22% of you said that you guys are currently working in corporate, 49% are working in private practice, and we have 28% working at the municipality. Thank you so much, guys. And please, please, please stay up until the end so that you can find out if you won or not.
So now, Ritabile, you know, while we're still talking about, you know, education, I understand that you also studied at UJ, and I've been informed that it's you know, the valuation program is more finance orientated. So with that in place, how do you feel that young candidate valuers, or rather, do you feel that young candidate valuers are equipped with the right knowledge and the right skills for the workplace? I mean, when you started working, were you able to apply what you had learned from the university basically to the workplace?
Yeah, I think young candidate valuers and just grads in general, when you leave varsity, you're equipped with theoretical knowledge, right? Which is the absolute basics, fundamentals of property. That's really what you need in order to begin your career. I mean, even with my first job at Redefine, I didn't go in there expecting to know everything. I went into the environment as someone who was teachable. So I came in there, I have this textbook knowledge. Here I am, I'm a vessel, teach me. And I was so blessed to be in an environment where the people were willing and happy to upskill me. You know, so I never felt like there was a gap in what I was learning or what I was able to provide to redefine or Investec once I went there. So yeah, I think you have enough with you to start your journey. It's really just getting into the right environment and then get in there running, and you're literally going to learn everything as you go about. That's how you build your experience. Yeah.
No, that's so true. I mean, like, we should always be ready and willing to learn, you know, like you said, we're never going to know everything. And I think even after years and years of working, you're still not going to know everything. Things are constantly changing, you know? And I mean, look now, who thought that we'd actually be experiencing COVID? I don't think anyone could have really prepared themselves for this, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, as valuers, we tend to use a lot of historical data. And that's also, you know, what we taught in school, what we taught in practice, that we focus more on the historical data. But I mean, people want to know, are their properties actually holding value right now? And I mean, Owen, we know that you...
Sorry.
No. I mean, Owen, we know that you've been a candidate valuer in practice for a while now, right? And you're also studying at the same time. But where do you feel that the syllabus might actually be lacking? And I mean, if you were given an opportunity to change it, would you introduce anything new?
At this point, I would say studying and working at the same time is definitely difficult. At first, it was very overwhelming. Finding the time to study, doing your assignments, and to do work at the same time. As you guys know, my dad is the boss, so that kind of makes things a lot harder. But out of anything, I think that is the most important thing for people to do, is work and study at the same time. There's so many things I've learned at doing it practically that I couldn't have learned from CPUT. And that's like the most basic example I can use now is how to use a measuring wheel. As just a simple example. Nobody knows how to do that. You can't do it at practical. I can't do it at CPUT because I do it online. So there's no way for me to do a practical at home. So if there's some way, I know it's going to be very difficult to do something like that, but if there's some possibility of moving forward into an era where we can do the theoretical basis and the practical together, like as soon as you start with your studies or anything at university or at CPT or wherever you go, to basically apply already for a job. So the mundane basic tasks you do now, you kind of do it exactly at the same time as you're progressing with your studies. So if that's even possible, I think that would be beneficial for everybody. And then you already have a job, and the people that employed you know you for your 3, 4 years, 7 years, if you want to take an extra couple of years just to do the subjects over again, if you understand what I mean.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think, I mean, like, with that being said, we do have an anonymous question that I'd actually like to address. So the question is, as a candidate valuer, what kind of salary should you expect? And I mean, like, you guys can give a ballpark figure, but I'd like to bring everyone into this conversation. Like, what do you think, our candidates, what do you think their expectations actually should be?
Well, if I can, from our side, is I work purely off of a commission base. So if I don't work, I don't get paid. There's no minimum salary, nothing like that. So it's very difficult to give you an exact amount or a range, because it's very dependent on how much effort you put into it. So if your commission is 20%, for example, for argument's sake, of a valuation, a specific valuation, the more you do, the more you earn. The less you do, obviously, you won't get paid that much. So you control the amount of money you'll get every month. Another thing is that we do work for banks and in privates, and we understand that there is kind of a waiting period, if I can say so, that every one bank pays in 30 days, another 60 days. So you've got to constantly keep on working and finishing valuations. And after a while, the amount that still needs to be paid out it kind of builds up. So after a while, you can see your average kind of where the amount you will earn every month. That's kind of how I do it at this point.
And I'm in the bank, so mine is slightly different, but I also don't just do valuations. I have to do a lot of other compliance type things and analysis for the bank. So it's really different depending on where you're working. What the minimum is, I'm not sure. I can't tell you. I think you need to assess what you think would be a fair living wage for you. But I think you also need to be, you know, sometimes you need to take a bit of a knock in the beginning just so you can build up that experience, and then the money will come as you progress. So I think as you're starting your journey, don't be too focused on money. As long as you have enough to live, try and get your experience and the money will definitely come.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think from our discussion already, we can establish that, you know, regardless of whatever sector we find ourselves in, you know, there are generally challenges. You know, there are challenges with the finances, which, you know, is subjective from the one person to the other. You know, there are challenges regarding the actual work that is expected for one to do, and there's challenges of delivering. You know, there's just generally challenges. And, you know, personally, I know of quite a few candidate valuers who have been candidate valuers just generally for about 10 years, but because they lack the right mentorship to get them to become professional valuers, you know, you find that they still, you know, still be candidate valuers. And I also do know of other candidate valuers who are doing the work of estate agents. Now, these are people who, just like us, they went to school, they graduated, but they find themselves, you know, just, you know, working as estate agents. And those are just some of the challenges that we come across, and regardless of whatever sector. So, you know, and the reason why I bring this is because I want to also just take it back to the importance of networking. You know, personally, I used a lot of social platforms, you know, to highlight my profile, you know, to share information, to share articles, to share, you know, just general knowledge, just to keep myself to a point where I can say that I am relevant in wherever I was in my profession. So if I can also just ask, ask, and perhaps anybody can answer this question, that, you know,
just before you ask that question, I'd just like to reiterate on what Ritavilia just mentioned now, you know, and you've also kind of shed light on that, regarding the fact that we shouldn't particularly as candidates be looking at salary per se, but I think what's most important is putting yourself out there to get the right chance to be with the right kind of mentor, because it only takes about a 2-year period to get you to a level where your earning potential is so high. You could be in the ranges of even $1 million per annum, you know. And I just wanted to shed light on some of the candidates, not for them to think that, you know, you'll be working for free, but what you'll be gaining. Think about what you can contribute first. What you'd be gaining is so much more. You only have to go through that small little period of, you know, just getting by, and then the opportunities will start to open. Just like attorneys go through, you know, their pupillage or their articles, you know, the salary scales are not so good, but the opportunities that come after that there really is no limit to that. I just wanted to reiterate on that.
And, you know, Mulate, that's actually quite relevant what you're saying. And it also comes back to the issue also of networking. So, you know, while you already also addressed that, what network opportunities do you wish you knew about while you were still a young graduate? And I'm asking this question for someone who is at home and You know, they want to know what kind of networks they need to be in, you know, regarding whether it's regarding more information that will tell them about, you know, the finances, you know, or how it starts, or just you know, platform that talk about networking, just anything about the work itself. As a young graduate, what are those networks that you wish you were involved in as a young graduate?
First and foremost, to the candidates, sitting at the back in your lectures is not a good look. You need to align yourself with the guys in class that participate the most, that get the best grades, so you can learn from the best. It starts from there. It starts from your lecture room. You get out your lecture room. Some of the guys will invite you because they've got other networks. They'll invite you maybe for an inspection because you've been participating first and foremost from your lectures, and they know the kind of person you are, the kind of work ethic you have, and those kind of play a role in somebody seconding you, or maybe getting a referral from some of these guys. So for me, it's very important to participate first and foremost in your class. Secondly, it is important to participate on LinkedIn as well. You've got really high flyers that are property valuers, and there are very few guys that are really, really good. And you can learn a lot from some of the guys that put up articles and comment on the articles, just to show that you are engaging. So the next time you meet another mentor, you can have the right kind of questions related to the industry that can show interest and enthusiasm about the industry, because that's what makes you more likable and gives you the opportunity where someone can be like, I think he's got something, or I think she's got something. So just those two aspects from my point of view and my experience, that's what mattered the most. And other role players in the property industry, like your conveyancers, your land surveyors, you've also got to have a contact of that, because whether you believe it or not, they too know a value. And it's very important to align yourself with these people, because like Owen just also mentioned how he heard about valuations with through a BRI. You know, this is exactly how you get invited to a BRI, you meet other peers, and opportunities come from that. But you have to be very genuine and also allow serendipity to fall in place. If you're participating and you're giving it everything you've got, trust me, the opportunities are there. There are people watching you, and they're going to give you that platform.
I love that. And that's it. I love how you've been like reiterating like how important mentorship is in our profession. I mean, it's extremely important, and this is exactly why networking plays such an important role, you know. So guys, we have another pop-up question, but before I go into that, I actually have two Q&A questions that are directed to you, Retabile. So so the first question asks, how do you measure a property when conducting an inspection, and what tools do you require?
You use a measuring wheel. That's really the long and the short of it. If you're measuring a property, you need a measuring wheel. You need a piece of paper, and you need a pen, and you're gonna go around, measure, draw it, write down, measure. That's literally what it is. But I think if you're starting out and you're not comfortable yet with measuring properties, get a mentor. Get a mentor. There are so many people who have this experience, who can take you through it. You know, there's, I know when I started my journey of valuations, there's like small intricacies that you may not realize, whereas your senior valuer or whoever's mentoring you, they're going to show you like, okay, we're going to subtract this little piece. Oh, we're going uphill. You know, like they're going to point out little intricacies to you that are going to impact on how you go about doing the things you're doing. So mentorship is, it's top priority in the valuation space.
No, definitely. So our second question to you is, what field of valuations are you focused on? Resi, commercial? And would you say coming from a leasing background has assisted you in your current job?
So I focus primarily on commercial valuations, but we do a lot of residential approvals, so single res approvals. And then what I took from Redefine and how that I carried that into my current job at Investec is that I was working with asset managers. So people who are looking at assets, dealing with tenants in terms of how you deal with expiries and all the like. So already I had a way of looking at these assets, and I had a way of interpreting tenancy, how you go about tenanting tenants in a shopping center. I had that knowledge that I brought with me from Redefine. So I'm able to use that in my day-to-day, valuing a shopping center or looking at a development of an industrial unit. I'm able to factor the things that I learned at Redefine into what I do on a daily basis. So like I said, stepping stones. I didn't start in valuations, but what I did at Redefine has now benefited what I'm doing currently at Investec.
No, that's very true.
Yeah. I see, Charles, do you think we can take just one more question as well?
Yeah, go for it.
We can actually, while Ritabile, as you were talking, perhaps maybe you can just a little bit elaborate on this one. There's also a question. It says, I am a candidate valuer for more than 10 years. And in this 10 years, I have been hoping for this opportunity. What is the function of SEC PVP to candidate valuers? And I ask this question not just to you, Ritabile. Perhaps it's a question that, we can all, speak about. But yeah, starting with you, Ritabile.
Council's there to protect us, Council, I mean, every single profession needs to be governed by a body, and that's what the purpose of council is. Even though sometimes we may struggle with our interactions with council, that's what they're there for, and we need to really just engage them more around what we feel we need them to do for us, where we see gaps in the service that they're providing us, and that's the only way that they're going to improve. But long story short, it's a body where we're supposed to come in and professionalize our profession. And, it's also supposed to be something we're supposed to use to engage as valuers and, maintain the high standards of our profession. So I really think our bigger issue is that we're not engaging enough with them. Mm-hmm. And that's why they may not understand really the frustrations that a lot of people are experiencing with them.
Yeah. And how about you, Molate? Do you feel the same way? I mean, I understand you started your journey at a municipality, but you're working there as a town planner, but you eventually made your way to evaluation, where now you work in a private sector. What role do you think, or do you feel that SEC PVP has played for you to be where you are?
Just a correction there. I wish I was a town planner. I come from a town planning background. I was an admin for town planning. So I was exposed to a lot more because it's the genesis of where we receive land use applications. So I was very much more fortunate to see it as an opportunity, because a lot of the town planners sit in their offices, doors closed. I was on the other side with the counter, meeting the people, seeing the application, touching it, reading, and how it's kind of now today it's playing such a major role in terms of understanding sectional title units, densifying, coverage, height. Now they've come into play in my valuation career now. It's not like I studied it and just because I didn't get the opportunity, it went to waste. No, it didn't. It's actually adding more value as I'm moving on with property valuations as well. So like I said in the beginning, a setback can be a chance for a comeback, So don't always look at it as a setback and sit and wallow in it. There's lots of opportunities in a setback.
Yeah.
I think while we're still on the topic of SEC PVP, there are still a few more questions. Oh, and I'd like to pose this to you. So the question is, how does one register as a candidate valuer?
Well, the basic thing is what I had to do is I had to enroll in CPUT, and once that was completed and I could see I'm officially registered at CPUT, I went to SECP and we applied basically there, and they know I am currently working for Pierre Reiner, so I had to do that portion of it so that I can go out and do inspections. Otherwise, I could not. So
having mentorship is crucial.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't think you can. Sorry, Owen. I don't think you can actually register without a mentor as a candidate valuer. So you need to either have a degree or currently busy with a degree. And then you need to have mentors who are going to sign that they're providing you this mentorship on your journey of becoming a PAV or a professional valuer.
Exactly. I think that was one of the prerequisites of it.
Yeah.
No, definitely, that is true. Ritabile, you are extremely popular on our Q&A session, hey? So I have another question for you. The question says, the late Mark Weiner realized the importance of mentorship. Were you at Redefine while he was still CEO, and what mentorship opportunities were you exposed to at Redefine?
I was at Redefine, when I was at Redefine, he wasn't the CEO anymore, but he was still chairman of the board and he still worked with the acquisitions team. So he was in the building all the time. I think in terms of mentorship opportunities, when I started, my first manager was a really amazing woman who kind of took me under her wing. And she, you know, like with mentorship, I think it's one of those things where the relationship has to be mutually beneficial. And I wasn't sitting there waiting for her to come to me and say, okay, this is how we're going to do this is how we're going to do that. Where I had my expectations of how the relationship was going to work and she had hers. So I think it's really just finding yourself a mentor you are well aligned with. I'm being clear about the expectations you have for each other and being clear also about the support that you want from your mentor. And in that conversation, you're then able to get the mentorship that is the most beneficial to you in whatever opportunities you're trying to chase.
I think on the topic of mentorship, I mean, Owen, we know that, you know, you're working for Peer Rainer, and how is it actually being mentored by your dad? Do you find that challenging in any way?
Well, most of the time it's quite difficult because he's my father and I work for him. So we have had instances where, let's say, we get into a heated arguments or something, but it's not always a bad thing. We've had nights where it started out as a heated discussion, and at the end of it, it was kind of helpful. I knew how to do the valuation differently. I didn't look at that specific valuation in that specific way. So I learned something out of it, out of just being angry at him at the whole time. So I really think, and I'm actually very blessed to have my dad be in the industry. So it makes it a lot easier working for him in terms of his willingness to help. He always says to us that attention to detail is the most important thing. So even if it's a small valuation or a small residential property, for argument's sake, it's very important to treat the smaller valuation just as much as you would do 100 million rand building or something. Each and every valuation has its own challenges, and most of the time, the things that would go wrong is the smaller one rather than the bigger one. And that's something that people should really, or more candidate valuers should really focus on and look into that.
No, I think that's great advice, honestly, very great advice. I'd like to go into our next pop-up question. So can we please have that brought up? So the pop-up says, do you feel universities prepared you well for the workplace? And it's a simple yes, no, or maybe. Unfortunately, we don't have a prize for this one, but we'd still love to hear you guys' input. Okay, so we're going to give you guys about 30 seconds to answer that.
So Chelsea, I guess while we're waiting, maybe Owen and Malate can tell us what they think about the poll.
Well, from studying at this point, I would say half of it. It's kind of balanced. 50% of the stuff I've learned thus far. Maybe I'm just clueless and I don't focus on it that much. But the stuff that I've learned thus far is 50% of the theory and 50% of the practical. it's cool to see how it kind of blends into one another and why it is important to focus on it. I can see it's very balanced.
Yeah, it is.
On the polls, yeah. So
the maybe's dead in the middle.
Yeah, I share the same sentiments with Owen, that it's kind of a 50-50, you know, except the fact that doing the practical valuation, you know, as Ritavile mentioned, you know, the measurings, and I think that's the most critical part that was never touched on when I studied, and I only met with it being on the ground and being hands-on. Because you're a little bit of a valuer, you're a little bit of an architect, you know, you really got to be a little bit of everything.
Engineer, you're everything.
Yes.
So how long did it take for you to adjust to that, and then when did you overcome that?
Honestly, I'm still adjusting to it, because you need, especially when you're doing the commercial stuff, is much more, you know, basic. It's rectangles. It's not so complicated. It's the resis that are so complicated when you have a house that's got so many corners and hinges, and you're just trying to find your way around it. But what's been of great value is learning to use the City of Joburg municipal website, the map viewer, because you can actually use that to see the building footprints, which can help you, you know, sketch it out quickly just before you go on site, just to save a lot more time, you know.
No, definitely.
The journey.
Okay, so we've gotten our results in, and we have 33% of you who said yes, 32% of you who said no, and 36% of you who said maybe. I guess the maybes have it. Yeah, the answers were very, they were very mixed. The reviews are very, very mixed on that one. I think I'd love to jump into the next question, and this one's to you, Owen. So as a student who's working and studying at the same time, well, I guess if anything, I do feel like you've answered this pretty well, but like, do you feel that there's something else that you ought to know to undertake valuations in the real world? Like, what do you think universities should actually be teaching? And I mean, like, we've been talking about measuring. Should they actually be teaching us practical measuring skills?
I don't know if that would actually make sense for them to, I don't know when they will find the time to do that, to have a practical session for that. I think the best way would be if you've got like a 2-week mentorship course at some other company that are willing to take on new candidate valuers, just to show them the ropes, basically. Like for instance, I was making a joke by saying you learn to be a photographer. You'd never take a photo in portrait, you take it in landscape. It just, you get more into your photo from a residential point of view. Measuring houses from the outside is easier. A small little thing is if you've got a double-story building and there's a double volume area, you exclude that from the size. You don't know that, you wouldn't know that from CPUT or wherever you're studying it from. That's not something that's included in your studies. You only learn it from trial and error and from your mentors basically telling you, don't include that into the size.
Yeah.
No, that's very, very true. So Malate, I know I've recently started as a candidate valuer, and I mean, number one, I didn't know or didn't realize how admin intensive it would be. Like you really have to schedule yourself properly. I think, I mean, Owen's, nodding his head. He knows that as a resi valuer, you really have to get your schedule together.
Yes.
So what were your expectations when you started as a candidate valuer, and were your expectations met?
My expectations were just were overmet, actually. I expected it to be that house is 7 million, that house is 4 million, and there's just so many aspects that go into that that you need to consider, and I think that has been the most mind-opening side for my side, and it's been absolutely an amazing journey thus far. And I'm just learning. And like you said, in terms of being admin intensive as well, familiarizing yourselves with your tools of trade, your survey general diagrams, setting up your template reports, And I just feel like there isn't much done in terms of familiarizing candidates in terms of what is needed, which is why the SEIV Mentorship Program is such a great platform, because it makes those tools of trade available to you and much more familiar. So it's not strange when you go into the work world. So I think the mentorship program is a great pool for other mentors to come in, excuse my language, to come and fish out for, you know, potential candidates.
Yeah.
I think before Slee moves into the next question, whilst you're on the topic of the SAIV mentorship program, I'd just like to add that, I mean, like, it's such a great opportunity, and it has allowed a lot of candidate valuers to actually register with SAC PVP. Because I mean, as you've mentioned during the webinar, you do have to have a mentor to actually register. And unfortunately, that's something that a lot of candidates tend to struggle with.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much. Getting the mentor and everything, it is quite challenging, which is why the mentorship program is such a beautiful initiative, because it just brings people together. And I'd like to urge some of the candidate valuers in the group chats, communicate, you know, start topics, write about something, engage, you know, because that's how we create networks. That's how I know how you think and what you think about a particular topic. You know, it just puts you out there, participate, be engaging. It's very important.
Yeah.
You know, and while you're talking about that, you know, the mentorship program has also played quite a huge role in my life. And I literally say that in the most sincerest of way. Just a few months ago, I had an opportunity of my profile being featured in the SAIV website. And I have to say that the responses were amazing, and these are the responses from my mentorship family, and by mentorship family, I'm talking about the people that I'm attending the mentorship program with. I mean, I got positive responses from, you know, potential employers, and also where I work, like I had mentioned that I work at the city of Ekurhuleni. You would be surprised that people have started noticing. My profile, you know, just because of this platform. And I'm not saying it's only this platform, but it is very encouraging for people to just go out there and use all platforms. But the issue of profiling is very, very important. So as a result of my profile being featured in SAIV, I was approached by one of my senior managers who said, "Listen, Slindile, I'm willing to extend my hand to help you in your journey of your valuation." You know, and then she started sharing also that information to her other peers. So I can say that it's opened quite a lot of doors. It's really opened quite a lot of doors for me. So, you know, while we seek mentorship, let's also go out there and make sure that our profiles are in order, that we don't just sit in our corners, that we just go out there and we put ourselves out there. And you would be surprised at how many people are sitting there and people who are actually watching. And, you know, while I'm on that, I would like to ask also Ritabile if, you know, just what your take is on these kind of platforms, you know, the platforms that profile the, you know, either the student achievements or professional achievements. You know, has it played any role for you? And generally, what is your take about such platforms that profile us?
Yeah, I think you took the words out of my mouth. You know, it's so important that students put themselves out there. You cannot sit back and wait for people to come to you. You know, you need to open your mind up to the different types of opportunities that are available, and you need to go for them. I think too often candidate valuers or people who are seeking mentorship want to just meet someone and then have that person drive the engagement. And that's not how things work. You know, if someone is investing their time in you, you need to put yourself out there and you need to basically drive the initiative to get yourself where you're trying to go. So platforms that profile students, they're great because potential employers can be looking on those platforms and they can find students there. But, you know, the minute someone engages with you, then the ball is in your court. So the platform can only do so much for you. You have to take yourself the rest of the way.
No, I absolutely agree. I don't know. I mean, Chelsea, you had a similar experience as well, where your profile was featured. What was your response for you? And do you share the same sentiments as Ritabile? Because I certainly do.
Well, I think it was very encouraging, honestly, you know, and I mean, like, I recently started out, so for me, I think it's honestly a great opportunity for me to like genuinely put myself out there, and I appreciate that support so much.
No, absolutely. Okay.
Okay, well, we'd like to move into the next question. So, what advice, Mulati, this one's for you.
Okay.
What advice would you give a municipal valuer who would also like to move from municipality to maybe a corporate or a private setting, and how did like your networks play a role into you making this move?
My networks played such a great role, even beyond what I could say. But I think what spoke for me the most is who I really am, you know, who you show yourself out to be and being authentic, you know. And like Tabila said, you have to drive the engagement. I didn't sit there and somebody came and rescued me and they're like, oh, you know, it doesn't happen. You know, you got to drive the engagement. And for me, the role that it played was I actually helped somebody that actually became one of the mentors for the SEIB Mentorship Program. And he was the one that seconded me and said, whenever you're ready, I can't believe you're ready to take such a big leap and leave such a secure environment for the sake of growing and for your passion. And when people see that, it's not just about leaving you there. You know, they want to hear, how's your experience? How's it going? What challenges are you having? You know, you're still keeping in touch and nurturing those networks, because you never know when you come out of this space and you go into another space, the role you can play for them as well, because it's like a sharing thing. I water you, you water me, you know, and we grow together. So it's that kind of relationship that you need to have with your networks. So for someone that's in the municipality, as they start to communicate with people, don't live in such a bubble, you know. If you're here on this platform right now, you can see the names, you can see the people that are here. Engage, find them on LinkedIn, you know. And another thing that really helped me a lot is maybe for some people it may be a little too personal, but I feel like this social platform has also become more professional. Your WhatsApp, you know, the things you talk about on your WhatsApp show what things interest you, because you can't want to be professional at home and social, but then on your private network you're posting things that are completely irrelevant, that are not in your character, you know, the kind of person you portray outside. And that counts in your favor as well, because someone can engage you on something you posted and they could be interested. That could start a conversation. That conversation could lead to a network. Someone could be like, you know, I think it'd be really nice if you met my dad. You know, you never know. Or maybe a friend of theirs is also a valuer. And that's how you grow in your network. Allow serendipity to play, but also drive the engagement, like we really reiterated as well.
Yeah.
No, that's true. And I think as youngsters, that's something that, you know, a lot of us tend to struggle with, is actually driving that engagement and maintaining those networks. I think that's something that we don't talk about like often. Like, yes, going out there and speaking to people is very important, but at the same time, we actually need to maintain those engagements, you know. And I mean, we know that valuations it's not a job that you necessarily do in isolation. I mean, this is something that I have recently learned as well. And I guess I'm going to ask this question to you, Owen. Has it been easy for you to create new networks and actually maintain them as well?
Well, I was actually fortunate enough to, when I started working for my dad, and it became a more permanent thing, that I already had the opportunity to meet most of their established clients and the resources they've already had at that stage. And I didn't have to do a lot to make a good impression, because they already did all of the hard work. So, and all it was now is just to keep up with it as I went on. The one thing I don't think of this really relevant. The one thing I do want to say is that I owe a lot to valuations at this point. The reason being is because I'm not really an extroverted person. I really like to be by myself or really into my shell type of thing. And through talking to people and calling to do, making an appointment for inspection or something, it really opened me up to speak more, like doing stuff like this. It's really not something I like to do on a regular basis, but because of the valuation part of it, it kind of helped me to go through everything. And I think people can see that if you were a little bit vulnerable, it makes it easier to talk to someone. It's very intimidating to speak to someone that's got a lot of words, a lot of big words, and you don't understand a lot of what they're saying. And I can feel that I do still have instances where I go to a property and this person is just, I don't understand what they're saying, but I know what I'm supposed to do. So I just kind of veer more towards that the whole time. So yeah, that's from my side for new valuers. It's just keep at it. It'll get better. Don't worry.
Can I say that I'm glad that you are honestly able to build up your confidence and really put yourself out there. Like doing something like this is honestly, it's a big step, you know? Yeah. It's a very big step. So I'm just saying that I'm proud.
Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome.
And the whole thing of building confidence is, you know, it's difficult, you know, it's not as easy as people think it is. I mean, I remember one of the seminars that I attended for SAIV. It was a little time ago. I was just probably it felt at least like I was the only student mentor at the time, you know, and I was surrounded by a whole lot of professional valuers. And I didn't know where to start. I honestly didn't know where to start. But, you know, just to go back to what Ritabile was saying, that, you know, no one will recognize you if you just sit there and you don't go out there and approach people. Challenging as it was, you know, my knees were shaking. So I decided to go to a group of valuers. I could see that they were having a good time. And I just, you know, got there and I pretended like I'm part of the team. You know, I eventually told them what I do and I handed out my business cards and, but I left an impression for them to ask, who is that girl? You know, because if you sit there and you don't do anything, people will literally just glaze over you. But if you just take that courage and you face people will eventually want to know who is that person. And because of that, they actually did use my numbers in one of my business cards, and they would call me and say, hey, look, we can see that these are the services that you're doing. Can you help us with this? Can you help us with zoning related information? You know, can you help us with such facilities? And that's how I'm actually maintaining my own network, you know, because of that. It started with that little step. So I absolutely share what you're saying, Owen. I really share your sentiments. So yeah.
So our next question goes to Ritabile. So I mean, like, this also speaks to like putting yourself out there. I mean, like in my third year, I decided that I really like need to make sure that I can secure something after studying, you know, and I helped start the WPN chapter at UJ. And through that, I think I actually met you at one of the events that we hosted. I don't know if you remember this.
I do.
But during your studies, were you a member of any organization that helped you find opportunities?
So unfortunately, while I was still at UJ, there weren't any official property related organizations that I was aware of. So I guess in the honors class, we kind of relied on each other and the networks we had in our personal capacity. And a good thing for us was that within our honors class, there were some people who were already working. So they were able to also highlight other opportunities that were available to us. But that's also because we had built a network in the class where we felt like, let's share information. You are a person that I'm happy to refer to certain things because of the way you show up every day in class. to what Mulate said. You know, how you show up is how people perceive you. So networks are really, really important. But, and also just to add to how you show up, I had an encounter recently where someone wanted to have a coffee with me to just find out more about my journey at Investec, understand what it is that I do on a day-to-day basis. And this particular lady arrived to the meeting, the coffee she called, and she just sat there and was like, so tell me what you do. And I just felt like this is not how you're supposed to be engaging with me when you know about my world. At least do a bit of research, you know, know what team I'm in. That's just like basics. So I think that's really things that play into your mentorship relationships with people. They play into your networking. The way you show up is so important that, I mean, it left a sour taste in my mouth. If I saw that lady again, I'd be like, no, she's not someone who's prepared to put herself out there. So I think we shouldn't downplay the role that has on the opportunities that do become available to us.
No, that's so true. And I think it just shows that at the end of the day, when you're seeking a mentor, the ball is honestly in your court. Like Rizabila said, it's how you present yourself that matters and how you approach them that matters as well. I mean, Melate also touched on this. Like, don't think that someone is just walking around with, you know, a cape that says, I'm giving away free jobs, because unfortunately, it's not the case.
Yeah.
And also, you know, while we're talking about that, you know, we are currently going through, you know, quite a difficult time, a period where we haven't been, not just as valuers, but, you know, throughout all in South Africa, you know, with the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, this current pandemic to a certain degree has changed the way we live, the way we work, and the way we play. And sadly so, you know, we are hoping for better days, but at the current moment, that is actually what is happening. You know, as a valuer who's still fairly new also in the industry, I have observed that, you know, valuers are now getting more reliant on using technology, you know, just like how we're doing now for webinars, or when you're holding a meeting, or when you're doing your workshop. We tend, you know, we are using your MS Zooms, I mean, your MS Teams, we're using your Zoom app, which is another thing that we really need to start equating ourselves with that, because this is our new normal. And also I had, you know, through the SEIV Mentorship Program, there is another a task that I was required to do where I didn't have to go to a site inspection. Now, this doesn't mean that it's going to be like this forever. I think it's because of the current pandemic. You know, we're doing things differently, but we are more reliant on using technology, especially in this current COVID. Now, you know, Owen, if I can just ask you this question, how do you think that the role of a valuer will be affected by this pandemic? And how was your role, how has this role changed for you, you know, pre-COVID as opposed to now?
Yes, this was a very difficult time. I remember there was actually a time when lockdown was luckily we've had a couple of valuations still to do, so I could keep myself busy. But after that, I had no idea what to do with myself. It's quite scary to think as you get busier and busier doing valuations, that's all you think about and that's all you do. And when somebody or something happens to take that away, you kind of feel lost at the end of it. I think the biggest thing the pandemic basically did was limit us from doing the one thing that is kind of really important in a property valuation, and that's inspecting a property. Without that, I really think that you can't do a proper valuation. I suppose that there are ways and means to come around that and do that, but I'm unfortunately not at that point thus far. I still rely on physically inspecting the property. I just feel more comfortable doing that. The other thing I would say is now that we are able to go out and inspect the properties, again, obviously wearing your mask and have hand sanitizers at hand, is that when you come back, the biggest thing is you've got to do a lot more market research. You've got to rely on your connections, essentially, basically to get market info, to understand what goes on in the suburb or the estate and find out exactly what goes on. Fortunately enough for me, this is basically just business as usual, because Pia kind of encourages this with a firm hand, to call and call and call again, just to make sure that you've got the right info. And I'm actually glad he not forced, but encouraged us to do this, because it kind of learned me that if I don't know something, I'll find out. I'll quickly call and find out. If there's something I don't know, I'll make sure about that. 100% sure, 200% sure, just to make sure. And for somebody that's still learning how to do that, I found that, yes, calling agents it is difficult. You don't like it at the start of it. I didn't. I stumbled all over the words I had to say. I didn't know what to ask. But the more I did it, I got more comfortable. The questions you ask, you immediately know what to ask for. Questions like, you can ask them, what is the typical range for a property of this size to be in this estate? So they'll give you a range. Or if it was an OTP, offer to purchase sale, how long was it on the market for? All of these comments are important, because you add them into your report, and it justifies your value at the end of the day. So that's really important for it. My role, because of the pandemic, I wouldn't say it changed at all for me and the colleagues in our company at the moment. It hasn't really changed. Maybe we got a little bit more responsibility in terms of, you know what, do your things, but that's just natural progression. That would have happened with or without the pandemic.
No, true. And just while we're on that note, we do have another pop-up question, unless if there was something that you wanted to add, Mulate. I think you wanted to add something there. Did I get you right?
Oh, no. I just concur with what Owen's experiences have been like.
Oh, okay. So we have another pop-up question. If we can have the next pop-up question, please. Pop-up 3 question. And it reads as follows. Which organization do you feel presents students with the most networking opportunities? Now, I think if I have if I'm correct about this one, there is another prize giveaway for this one. So let's go for it. We have another 30 seconds just to quickly do it. And yeah, it is exactly this question, yeah.
It looks like Chelsea's speaking. You're on mute, Chelsea.
Thank you. Oh no, my thing is, I'm doing so much in the background. I'm looking at the chat, I'm looking at these questions, and I don't want everyone to hear me typing, So hence I had to put myself on mute. But I wanted to say that there is definitely a pop-up. There's definitely a prize for this pop-up.
Yeah.
Whoever answered that one the fastest, you will definitely be getting something. And Slee, would you like to read the results on that?
Yeah, the results are out. The results are out, and 74% agree that the SAIV is the organization that they feel presents students with the most networking opportunities. We do have 4% for WP and 2% for SECP, but generally the most responses come from SAIV. I also do agree with this. I'm not sure how you feel with the panel, and I'm not being biased. How do you feel about it?
I think Malasa can attest to that for us.
You know what? The people have spoken, and
the people have.
If anything, council needs to look at that as something to work on. That's I would say. That's my takeaway from that poll response.
Yeah.
So guys, we actually got something very interesting from the chat. We got like a few words of encouragement, and I think I'd actually like to read this out for anyone who didn't see it. So Roger O'Leary wrote, just a word of encouragement for the candidate valuers. One of the most important attributes a potential mentor or employee is looking for is initiative and really applying yourself. In the current work environment, there is unfortunately no time and capacity to so-called spoon feed with answers. So if faced with a problem, research it to your best ability and tell your mentor what you have found and what your opinion is on the matter. This is also more vital for developing as a valuer, especially when you face specialized and more complex valuations. You have to apply your mind adequately, motivate your findings and opinions. How do you guys feel on this?
No, definitely.
I agree with Raj. It's very true. I think even in the space that I'm in right now, I've got my own senior valuers, and they don't just accept anything. With all work that you do, you need to substantiate your findings. And just because I feel like a cap rate should be 10% and I back it up, I'm like, it's because of this, that, and the rest, it doesn't mean people aren't going to disagree. Someone might disagree and be like, no, Tabi, I think your answer's wrong. And you need to be able to back up what you're saying, back up your arguments. If you've done the research and you are at a stage where you're prepared to sign your work off, back yourself. And, you are allowed to be wrong. Everyone's wrong sometimes. But, when you do the research, you are comfortable enough to be able to back yourself and to also challenge things that you don't understand. And that's just how you're going to continue to improve in your valuation journey.
No, absolutely. I can't take away from that. I agree. Nothing preps you up more than just research, prepping yourself up. It gets your confidence on board. I agree with Roger. Absolutely. And yeah, I don't know. What can we add to this? Owen?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was saying a little bit earlier, is that your market research means a lot in your valuations. That if you do the proper market research wherever you have to go to get it, if you have to phone a friend, if you phone agents, if you actually go out and see what the area is like. The biggest thing I would say is just finding agents, because they are currently in the markets, they are selling books. We've actually done a couple of valuations now that more and more agents say that June and July of this year were record months in selling houses, which was crazy. I didn't even know that would be possible, but they've said that compared to last year, June, July, this is a record month. So that was quite impressive.
No, I can definitely attest to that. The amount of work we've gotten in is honestly insane. And I think a lot of people are just trying to take advantage of the interest rates at the moment, And I guess let's just hope that everyone's doing so smartly.
Yeah. Because it's going to come back up.
Yeah. No, true. That's very, very true. But I think, Ritabile, how do you think that students should actually be building their networks? Like, who are the people you think they should be speaking to as a university student or even as a candidate valuer? And what platforms do you think they can actually reach out?
I think currently students should be joining student organizations. Stuff like SAIV, need to attend. If a guest lecturer is giving a lecture at your school, attend the lecture. You find so often students don't attend lectures if a guest lecturer is coming to talk about something that is not going to be in the test. That's a clear networking opportunity that you're missing out on. Go to these career fairs. If someone's giving a talk, go to the talk. This is how you meet people and you're then able to engage with them. Look for opportunities. I think, I don't know, sometimes it just feels like students aren't looking for enough opportunities. If you're going to be on holiday, look for VAC work. People are giving VAC opportunities, and sometimes you're not getting enough students applying for it. And then when you ask, why didn't you apply? It's like, oh yeah, I saw it. I was busy, or you get like things that just don't stack up. You need to engage constantly. I mean, I'll give you a good example. Last year, we were running a VAC program, a really, really nice bespoke VAC program. And we went to different universities where we're telling students that we are having this VAC program. And you would be shocked at the number of applications we actually received, because people aren't looking for a VAC program, they want a grad program. But this is an opportunity. You are going to be in this environment and engaging with more than just the 14 people in the team. You're going to be engaging with a lot of different people, and that's a missed opportunity. So I think sometimes there are great opportunities out there for students that they just don't take up, which is unfortunate.
It really is. It really is.
No,
And
can I say that I completely agree with that? Sorry to cut you off, Leslie. I just wanted to add that I think when it comes to upskilling yourself, like honestly, don't even undermine what volunteering can do for you. Like, yes, I know we all want to receive like pocket money here and there. And this is honestly something that I did last year while I was in my 3rd year of studies. I was like, I need some experience. I haven't gotten any, and I know that I want to be in the property field. So I met someone at an event, and I just really liked what she was doing. I loved what she had to offer. And I was like, you know what? I'd love to volunteer for you just so that I can learn from you.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is, we had a similar guy last year with the VAC program who applied for it. He was super excited, a great candidate. And when we told him that, mind you, this is someone who is based in Cape Town, who wanted to fly down to Joburg, was like, no, don't worry, everything will be fine. But when he found out that he was going to receive a bit of an incentive, he was shocked. He was doing it for the networking opportunity, doing it for the experience. The remuneration was a bonus to him. So you can imagine immediately, we've already loved this candidate. And when you hear this additional, that he was willing to do this for free, you're immediately drawn to him, because you realize that it's passion that's driving this person, and you're not going to have to chase him for anything.
no, true. I mean, I also did some voluntary work at the municipality, you know, actually it was valuation, and at least for 6 months. Unfortunately, my mentor at the time had to relocate to Durban, but even after they left, they still were to refer me to other people, you know, and said, look, this person came on up to me and she was doing this on a voluntary basis, and I would like for them to continue. But, you know, sometimes, you know, it does happen that things don't happen the way we do, but at least, you know, my name was out there, and I do know that they can still come back to me and say, look, I was referred to you by this person, and let's work. My door is still open. And it only starts with just doing a little task of doing voluntary work. So I absolutely agree with you guys. Which and also this leads us to pop another pop question, the following pop question, pop number 4. It's actually very relevant to what we're also speaking about now. And it reads as follows. What social platforms have you found to be most beneficial in building your network? We're also going to give this one another 30 minutes. And perhaps while, you know, we're giving our viewers an opportunity to respond, let's have a chat amongst ourselves.
If anything, can I say that we should answer a few of the Q&A questions?
I think the poll is already up, but it's fine. We can answer it, but while we give people a chance to answer the poll question.
So I actually have a Q&A question that's actually directed to me. I feel so flattered. So the question says, Chelsea, how did you get your opportunity at DDP Valuers? So what happened is last year, during my final year, they were actually recruiting from UJ and UP specifically. And luckily, fortunately, that is how I was able to learn about this opportunity. So they were recruiting directly from universities. See, I see the poll came through.
Yes, and it says LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn tops it up. 69% of our voters say they go with LinkedIn. 24% goes with Facebook. We have 4% that goes with Twitter, and 2% that goes with Instagram. Molate, what do you think about that?
LinkedIn is the best platform to get your networks because it's a professional environment. You know, it takes out all the social nitty-gritties and it allows you to engage in the industry itself with some of the professionals posting articles and topics related to your industry and environment. And it allows you also to engage in those conversations. So it's a really great platform.
No, I agree. It's also done quite amazing work for me. Most of my networking we're literally done on LinkedIn. And I think we can all relate as well. Not to take away from other social networks because they are also equally as relevant. Because what I do is that what I share on LinkedIn, I also do share it on other, social platforms that I'm in. And I can assure you, I mean, even now, as we speak, we're currently being broadcast on Facebook. And hey, look, a lot of people are watching. So that's also just another way of getting the profile there, getting our networking there. So let's make use of these networks.
But responsibly also, responsibly. Because I know there's some people who are using LinkedIn as a dating site, and that is responsible.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I also think the different platforms kind of dictate where you can advertise it properly. Because I think LinkedIn and Facebook is moving more towards or accommodating the professional side of it and more than the social side of it. I think Twitter and Instagram is more the social entertainment side of it, at least in South Africa. I'm not sure about overseas, but I think from our side over here in South Africa, I think it's more relevant. That's why I think more people are prone to go there. That's the place where you can do it, and you'll get your most responses there. So you can advertise everywhere else. I think it'll be a waste of time at this point where we are now to do it on the others if you're just applying there. I think what you're doing is correct, doing it everywhere.
Yeah.
I think with that being said, Owen, one should then be very mindful of where you'd like to build your network. So if you're looking for something professional, I think it's best to say that try and stick to LinkedIn. And also please be mindful of how you contact people, how you present yourself in your initial message. Honestly, it does say a lot about you at the end. As Retabile said, when she met up with the lady and she just, she was expecting something from her, not bringing her own self to the table. I mean, that's a problem, right?
Yeah. Retabilia, just out of curiosity, when you went for that meeting, this is just for myself, when she approached you or just asked you, was it more of a look down on you type of way, or was it more of she's kind of scared of getting words out? Because I found that sometimes I come across as being arrogant or something, and I'm not trying to be that way. It's just I'm really scared of getting the words out. I'm struggling to find the right words to convey the message that I'm trying to say. And I'm not sure if that was what happened. Maybe.
I'm not sure. When we met up, I did try and engage her prior to just the conversation to make her feel comfortable. But for me, being someone who's within the same bank, it was the lack of preparation and just sitting back waiting for me to, I don't know, give you the answers or point you towards the career. It felt very one-sided, and it left me feeling I couldn't understand what the purpose of the coffee was if she wasn't engaging in it.
Yeah. Asking the question and answering.
Prepare yourself. And then when we meet up, ask me what you want to know. but for you to come and sit back and just want to be a blank canvas, that's not something that works in a relationship where you're trying to gain some sort of knowledge or some sort of mentorship. It really doesn't work.
Mm.
Just to add on what Ritavile gave a beautiful example there of the gentleman that came in and was for the VAC work, if I'm correct, and
Yes.
had no expectation for remuneration. I'd like to pose that as an example of great mentees that are really passionate about the industry. To some of the mentees that may think that they may be demanding opportunities and saying, I want this opportunity. When you're going to give us a job, I want a job. It doesn't work like that. It's a very professional environment. You're going to have to work very hard and show yourself out and participate. And only the deserving mentees are going to get the opportunity. So take the platform. If you're one of those that have that accent with that, I want a job, I want enough, take a few steps back and find out how you can portray yourself much better, and the opportunities will start to favor you, because we're in a professional environment now. We can't afford to be demanding opportunities. Nothing like that nothing comes for free. Like I said, there is no Superman that got a cape on dishing out any jobs.
Yeah.
You gotta have the right attitude.
Timolate, so I have a question, and I'm going to pose this to both you and Slee. I mean, we understand that, one municipality definitely differs from the other, and I'm glad that I have someone who was at COJ and someone who's currently at Ekurhuleni with us in the same room. But it's concerning that a lot of valuers are still struggling to build networks, especially in the municipal space. So are there any processes that the municipality has in place to help newcomers in the industry build networks?
From my side, it's very difficult to say, because I wasn't particularly in a valuation environment at the municipality. But what I did notice is that even though I wasn't in valuations, but I was in class with some of the guys that were in valuations, and they were working for City of Joburg. And I noticed that a lot of them can get, I don't know how to say this, but they can feel like you're not in my league kind of thing, and they can create barriers for themselves when you don't even know that the networking and communicating can get you out of the municipality and into the world that you want to be in. So I really find that some of the valuers that work for the municipalities create a barrier for themselves, because they're way up here and everybody else is down here. So it's a give and take thing. Like I said, I water you, you water me. You never know if I know people that can also give you the opportunity, my circle, it's very important to open yourself to those kind of opportunities as well.
Yeah, it's the city of Ekurhuleni. We also, and pretty much like, Johannesburg, really what you're saying, I can completely relate to it. But what differs slightly with Ekurhuleni is that we have sort of like a flexible structure where, if you are in finance, or if you're doing something in finance, it's very easy to communicate with someone who, in the engineering department, or if you are a town planner, you communicate with the valuer. So they created an environment where it was flexible for all of us to sort of like engage. And also we, now and again, we have, I wouldn't call them seminars, but, we have events that actually bring all the officials in Ekurhuleni together. So, I mean, it's a social event. It usually happens in December when people are ready to go home. And that is actually where you see anybody, from the different kinds of departments. You communicate with them, you exchange contacts, so that flexible approach for us actually really, really worked. We do still have it, but of course, because of COVID, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but over the years, on a yearly basis, at least we do have events that literally bring us all together. So then I even approach an HOD and then I ask them something, because I'm finding them in their comfortable space. Yeah. So that's my experience, yeah.
I mean, hopefully you guys can still have the event online, right? I think it's definitely better than nothing.
Yeah, let's get some laptops, let's get some, and let's get some facilities. And that's another challenge, that's the resources in Ekurhuleni, not in Ekurhuleni, but in most municipalities. And I know that this is something that, that the municipalities are working on, but there is quite a challenge of resources. So let's hope over over time, we will also have, laptops and communicate with everybody and have our meetings there. Yeah.
No,
And
definitely.
just
Zoom
add
parties.
on to what Slee just said, not to make it an umbrella and fit in all the valuers at City of Joburg, because there have been some really good people that have opened themselves to me from me engaging in the conversation and wanting to make the networks. So again, it reverts back to what Ritavila said, you have to drive the engagement as well. So there have been some really good valuers that have afforded me the opportunity to be at this platform right now. I would never have known it if they hadn't introduced me to this platform.
Did you have similar events at COJ?
Oh,
Similar social events?
no.
Oh, okay.
Should start some.
Sorry, Owen?
Should start some.
Yeah.
Some event.
Well, you're not there anymore, but hey, speak to your people.
Yeah.
I guess, Malata, if you go anywhere, I think Owen would love to be taken along as a +1,
Absolutely, he's more than welcome.
And I think this actually encourages us, us the panels as well as everyone who's watching, to have our own social event. Hey, imagine how great that could be. Of course, at the moment it will have to be online, but we have to start somewhere.
I honestly think that would be great, networking with one another. And I mean, like, candidate valuers, everyone's at a different space. Like some of them are just starting out, like myself, and then others have already been candidate valuers for a while. So I mean, like, we shouldn't undermine what we can pass on to one another and the knowledge that we actually hold,
Yeah.
So our next question is actually posed to you, Owen. I mean, like, we know that we're currently going through unprecedented times with many valuers struggling with workflow. And as someone who's probably being groomed to take over the company, do you feel like you still made the right career choice?
Well, at the moment, I really do think so. Within these times, I think property valuations is fortunately one of those few professions I think that will always be around. Any client will always need to have some sort of assessment or valuation done on their property. So fortunately, from that point of view, I think really you are quite safe in this space, but you still have to work hard at it. I don't mean you're safe. You can just lay back and do nothing and your paycheck will come in every month. You still have to work hard. And it's really a thing of, if you do your work right, you'll get there in the end. I think in terms of grooming me to take over the company, that part I'm really nervous about, because I don't know if a lot of you know my dad, Pierre Reines. He's been in the industry for quite a while. I'm turning 24 in a couple of days. He's been doing valuations longer than that, actually longer than I've been alive. So it's quite scary to think that I've got to, in a couple of years, understand all of that in the least amount of time. And that's quite a daunting thing to think about. So I honestly just try and take it day by day and not freak out most of the time of it. But the things I've got to do now, I've done residential properties, I've done commercial properties in the industrial, offices, retail. It's really interesting seeing different fields, and then there's a different property. It's the same residential, maybe like for instance, a property that's down a ridge and up a ridge, like on top of a hill, is something completely different. No valuation is ever the same. And I think the more you struggle with evaluation is the only way you can learn how to do it. And it's really interesting for me to learn more about it and just take in as much as possible. Obviously, I do still make mistakes. sometimes more than others. And that's maybe sometimes because it's just because me and my dad don't always see eye to eye. But essentially I can learn a lot from him and from the people he knows. But all in all, I really think this is still the right path.
No, absolutely. So now, Ritabile, if I can just pose this question also to you. If after this webinar you get a number of followers or emails from young valuers, who would you like to build a network with? I mean, how would you react to that? And how do you maintain that network, understanding the challenges that they are going through?
I think that's something I would definitely be open to, but no, open to full stop. In the engagement, I think it's very important that we're clear on what we're trying to achieve. So I think before you engage, you need to introspect and be like, okay, what am I trying to achieve? And how is this person going to help support, guide me in this journey to achieving whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve? Because then it just helps streamline our engagement. We're both clear on what it is, because sometimes you just want support. Yeah. Some people are looking for someone to bounce ideas off of, and sometimes, you know, you're just looking to say, these are the two opportunities, what do you think? So I think it's very important that even besides myself, just in our engagements with anyone who we're trying to get guidance or mentorship from, let's just be clear what it is that we're trying to achieve. And it'll help the conversation so much.
Do you share the same sentiment, Amulate?
Very much, very much so.
I agree.
She's right on point with that. I don't think you can be as authentic, any more authentic than that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other messages or comments?
No, but I think would you like to take us into the next question, Lee?
Let's see. Okay, just a second. Because now the next question was about the pandemic, and that one has already been answered. So I think I'm covered on my side.
I think, Mulate, we'd like to ask you a question. So we know that, you know, face-to-face networking is very difficult sometimes. And it can be easier to inbox someone online. Like we said, LinkedIn is a very good platform for us to do that. So if after attending this event, like, do you think someone would also, number one, have the courage to speak to you? And how would you take that? And how would you want them to engage with you?
First and foremost, I don't have a particular way to engage me with, but just try and be genuine and professional. Like I said, if you're going to approach me and you're going to ask me, how do I get a job? I mean, you put me in a very tight position, you know. Yeah. But if you're going to ask pertinent questions relative to the industry, like for instance, a few weeks ago, I had one of the mentees contact me and say, if you ever have an inspection, please tag me along. And I found that to be quite an initiative to take, you know. It's just an example to just show that the person is so interested and they're availing themselves, and to a point where I don't mind picking them up wherever they are to schedule my appointment, pick them up and go and do the inspection together. That's just an example of how you can approach somebody, and yeah, that can come through with some to be fruitful.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I mean, like, we know that as a valuer, you definitely learn a lot more on the field. Unfortunately, it's not as easy to just take someone along with you these days. You have to be very mindful of that.
Yeah.
Yes, please be safe, guys. We're not advising anything here. Please be safe.
Oh, true.
With that, we do have another pop-up question. So can we please have that come up? And the question should read, do you find it easier to network on So do you guys find it easier to network online or face-to-face? And I think while that's being answered, maybe we can address some of the Q&A questions that have come through. Oh, Malate, I see you have some fans here, hey? Someone says, I love your energy, all the best on your journey. This was from Emma Cornelius.
Oh, wow.
And, and I did see earlier, there was someone bragging about you, saying that you guys were in the same class.
Oh, there goes another network.
So we have a question here, and okay, so the poll results actually came in, and it says 41% of them said online, and 59 actually said face-to-face. So a lot of people still prefer networking face-to-face. How do you guys feel about that? Oh, and I know that it's taken you, you know, sometimes to build up your confidence. Would you prefer networking online or face-to-face?
Well, this is online, this is scary. So I would say I'm actually used to or accustomed to doing face-to-face now. And I think my father has kind of instilled word of mouth basically into us quite often. So basically, if you do the work right, and if you do it, if you're great at what you're doing, word will spread. You don't need to boast it. Your work will show for itself. And I think that's something that anybody should strive for. And you don't need to brag about something you've done or make someone else feel bad. It's just let your work show for it.
Absolutely. And Retabile, how do you feel are you more at ease with face-to-face or the more online network? What do you think about that?
I'm definitely a face-to-face kind of person. I just think it's easier to understand and engage with a person when they're face-to-face. I do also understand that we all have different personalities. Some people are more reserved and others are more outgoing. So I think it's one of those EQ things where you need to just try and understand your audience as well, so that you are both trying to make each other comfortable. But face-to-face engagements for me are very fruitful.
And you get to express yourself, I guess, a little bit more, because with the online ones, they can be a little bit restrictive. Whereas you see someone face to face, they can elaborate on what their interests are, where the similarities are. So I also prefer the face to face ones. No, I mean, look, online ones are still good for me. With me, any networking is good for me. But I definitely agree. Face to face ones, they're on point for me. Maybe I just love to. I don't know. Okay.
So before we close off, I think we just have one more question, and this to you, Owen. So how do you think the role of a valuer will be affected by this pandemic? How has your role changed during, and like now as compared to pre-COVID?
I think we have covered that a little bit earlier. I think all that entails is basically just to do more market research, focus on that a little bit more, really phone and find out what's going on in the market. That's the most I would say that would change. My role in our company hasn't changed at all. We still, if we are allowed to go out and do the inspection, we do so. What I've tried to incorporate now is, as soon as I go out, I will make sure I've got a number of a property 24 or something like that of the suburb or estate I'm going to, just to beforehand I can call and just kind of figure out what's going on in that estate or the area, just to get a feel for it, so that I know what I'm looking at, so that when I get back to the office, it's a lot easier. I've got all of my market research already on the go, so I know where the value should kind of be. That's kind of helped me a bit.
I think, can we take a few more of the Q&A questions before we close? So let's see here. So we have a question here that says, what kind of innovation would they introduce to the profession as candidate valuers to monetize it? So I guess what kind of technology could we be using as candidate valuers, maybe to bring us all together or to help move the profession forward? Do you guys have any opinions on this?
To monetize valuations as candidate valuers. Sorry,
I'm also trying to understand the question. I think that's what it seems like, right?
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, not sure.
I think maybe they meant modernized, perhaps.
Oh yeah, I think so. Modernize it. So how do you guys?
I think, you know, without really understanding what the question is, I would just say in terms of trying to move with your journey as a candidate valuer, it's important to perhaps try and engage while you're still studying. So I think Owen might have mentioned it. Engage with different valuers, try and jump into mentorship programs. I see a lot of people are asking how many vals do they need to do to become a professional? How long is the process? I think when you engage with valuers, you'll understand that it's not as cut and dry as saying, go do 400 valuations and you are now a PAV. You know, it's a very complex industry that we're in. So engagement and trying to understand, but patience as well. You know, you've got to do your time, unfortunately. You know, the industry demands its pound of flesh and we've got to give it to it. And then in terms of us wanting to improve or modernize the industry, I think just as candidate valuers, we really need to almost discuss what the things that we feel are hampering our journey. We need to discuss those more with platforms such as SAIV and the council, because that is the only way we can work towards streamlining things and making processes so much easier for ourselves and generations that are going to come after us.
No, that's very true. I think, does anyone else have an opinion on this? How can we maybe modernize the profession?
Well, I honestly think because we're in the 21st century and everything is getting faster and better in some or other way, I think in terms of valuations, we should also try and find and move more towards bettering it and helping each other get to a certain point that it just becomes easier. I understand that in some of the banks, they have automated valuation system, but there will still be valuations that need you to go out and physically inspect it, regardless of the fact that you can just take a general view of the market and say the value is that. You don't know if there's a hole in the floor of the property. A computer can't do that, unfortunately. So, and I think if we keep on encouraging each other and keep on doing what we're supposed to and helping them and trying to just stay ahead of the curve and trying to better yourself, I think it's going to be a bright new world.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, so we do have also another question, and it says, has any of the panelists had more than one mentor over a period of being a candidate valuer, and what were the benefits of that? Yeah, can we start with Molate?
Just learning different leadership styles and the way that other valuers approach valuation as well. It's just so helpful to just learn from different people, because otherwise you can be very stuck and not even finding how your writing style is because you're required to write in a certain way. It's very important with the journey of finding yourself as a valuer as well. So I do think I myself, I've been through so far in the past 4 or 5 months, I've got 2 mentors now, you know, and I'm just learning so many different things from both of them, because you're learning so much to equip yourself so you can be able to pass the baton on to the next upcoming candidate values as well.
I'd agree.
And how about you? Okay, yes, Rita.
No, go Rita.
Okay. No, I was about to say, I've had, in the organization that I'm in, I've had I've probably had 4 like constant ones. And then I engage with valuers from other regions as well. but it's such a benefit to be able to hear different points of view or listen to different ways to tackle things, you know. And I think in terms of being a candidate valuer and dealing with your mentor, it's also really important to understand your mentor, because I guess my primary mentors right now, I have two of them, and they're two different individuals with two different styles of working. You know, it's important to understand that if I'm with person A, this is how I need to present this valuation and discuss this valuation when we're signing it off. And when I'm with person B, they literally want us to go line by line, but that's just what the mentorship process is. And it's something that builds you so that you, in all of that, in the 4 styles, 5 styles, you then find what your style is. And you also then, in being mentored, you get to develop your own way of mentoring other people. So having multiple mentors is a really good thing, in my opinion. But it's also good to have your standard go-to mentors as well.
Yeah, that's actually quite funny that you say that. I've been also mentored in the almost 3 years that 4 years, yeah, something like that I've been doing valuations for my dad. And the funniest thing is the mentors I've had for that time, all of them got mentored by my dad. So my main one is my father. So all of them got mentored by the same person that I'm in now. So it kind of helps.
No, I'm glad that he's passing on all his knowledge. You know, clearly he has a lot of wisdom in him.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I think let's maybe take one more question. And it says, this is from Emma. She says, I find that many candidate valuers are focused on building experience and the goal of becoming a PAV, both critical to one's career. However, how motivated are candidate valuers to becoming RICS accredited? Are any of the panelists accredited or in progress?
I'm not RICS accredited, but I am definitely looking at becoming RICS accredited.
Okay, and you, Mulate?
Baby steps. I'm only about a 4 to 5 month old baby right now. So I definitely intend on doing that in future, but baby steps. I've got to get my PAV. It's a process. I'm still enjoying it.
Owen, maybe as a 4-year-old, you can answer this.
Yeah, I'm also in this process. I'm not finished yet. I still have to finish the education part of it first and get to the professional part.
Yeah. But I'm glad she brought this up. Maybe this is something that we should all have in the back of our minds, you know?
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, it's all about upskilling ourselves. And I think we should be ready to announce our winners. Can we please have those slides brought up in the back? Thank you. Yeah, we'll be having our support do that for us. Okay, there we go. Steve, would you like to announce this?
Just wait, let me just find where our winners are. And while I'm looking at that, okay.
So it's currently on screen. So the first one says, congratulations, Nasim. Can we have the next one? There we go. I honestly don't want to butcher your name, so I'm just going to say...
Okay, so Kiatumela Musimi.
Thank you.
Kiatumela.
Oh, Roger. Congratulations.
Ian and Lara please help me out. Ian and Lara.
Well done.
Congrats, guys.
Well done.
Well done.
And then finally, we have Emma Cornelius as well. Congratulations to everyone. You should be, I think Loretta should be contacting you guys. Thank you so much for participating. And then in closing, I would just like to say thank you to all our panelists for joining us. And thank you to everyone who came and watched this webinar. Like, we genuinely appreciate it. And I think with the amount of participants we had today, I think that just shows how important it is for us to be supporting students and supporting candidate valuers in our profession, you know. I mean, we are the future going forward. And I think it just displays how important networking is in this profession, that so many people are interested in hearing about it. And I just want to say that as young valuers or as students, I think we shouldn't undermine the knowledge and the value that we can honestly like impart on one another. Whether it's something simple, it doesn't always have to be completely technical, like just asking a simple question on how do I contact someone on LinkedIn. That's something that we could easily help each other with, you know? So yeah, and thank you so much to everyone once again for joining in. And then also I would like to add, we did have a Q&A and someone mentioned that they had been a candidate valuer for the past 10 years. And I just want to say, this is why initiatives such as the SEIV Mentorship Program is so, so, so important, because it has, like I said, it has allowed a lot of students and mentees to register as candidate valuers. And yeah, mentorship is just, it's honestly it's so crucial to this industry. It's something that honestly cannot be ignored, you know? And then lastly, I would also like to add that the SEIV bursary program is still open until the end of October for next year. So if you guys would like to apply to that, please do. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. From my side, I just want to say that, you know, mentorship it's never a destination. It's a continuous journey. So let's make sure that we go out there and we don't just put a stop to it. Let's continue. Let's promote the culture of continuous communication amongst ourselves as young candidate valuers with our potential mentors. Let's just go out there and do it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think we are just about done for the day.
I think so too. There we go.
And thank you, everybody.